So, some other Ford news here.
Yeah.
I love these people. First of all, I would say I wish I had this kind of time, but honestly, if I had this kind of time, I don't know that I would be doing it. But there are people that sit out there and troll. Once you are granted a patent in the U.S. Patent Office, it
Right.
basically becomes public information.
Yes.
Your patent filing does once it's
Yeah.
approved or granted.
Yeah.
So
And there are people out there that's all they do.
they do is just read through the approved patents. I mean, Apple's had a lot of stuff exposed in recent years over, people finding things out this way and so on. So
Right.
There's one out of Ford that's really interesting in a segment I'd like to call "I Don't Need Your Stinking Clutch." I don't need no stinking clutch. So apparently Ford's working on a manual transmission, if you will, that shifts without the use of a clutch pedal.
Right. And I checked out the patent on that. I looked at that thing. It's interesting technology. Now, here's the deal, though. Here's what's funny. Hyundai, back in 2018, they also came out with what they call a no clutch pedal type transmission, and it senses the change. It's kind of like it's an intelligent shift. They call it an intelligent manual transmission. It's the IMT. There's an IMT sensor on it. It senses when you're going to slam it into gear, and all. It's all electronic censored, so it takes the human element really kind of out of it. That's Hyundai.
It's kind of more of a hybrid, though. I mean, even this one, and I did look at this patent, and I've got it up here, and it's kind of just hybrid. Like, this really, to me, is more similar to a paddle shifter style than it is really
I thought that this was nothing new to me.
It is, yeah, I got the same impression, but I will say that if your goal is to try and introduce people that would otherwise be afraid to learn a manual transmission and get them exposed this way, I guess I'm okay with it. I mean, you and I'm guessing a lot of the rest of our viewers and listeners had similar experiences if you've ever learned to drive a stick. You almost have to just get thrown into the deep end of the pool to some extent, right? Like, you start at usually a parking lot, but at some point you're going to have to learn to start on a hill, right?
Right.
When you're just going to have to do it. And we've all had the joke where, like, I've literally killed it, right, as a teenager, and, whoever was teaching me is out the other window going, he's learning to drive a stick, and everybody behind him goes, oh, yeah, we got it. Okay, yeah. I mean, because so let's
let me just say this. So, one of the part of the patent that I was looking at, it does show a foot controller. Okay, I do see that, but I don't know what the extent of that is. So this is an electronic transmission. It's basically taking away that clutch plate, pressure plate, clutch disc engaging feature, which is all hand. It's all hand, feet, and eye coordination, and
which so to me. Here are some specifics. The patent is stated to be for a manual transmission with an electric clutch. So the clutch is electric. One where the clutch releases hydraulics and it's pressurized by a master cylinder, so I'm guessing similar to the way your brakes work.
Correct.
Operated again by an electronic actuator. Now, is that the foot part, or is that...
Well, and that's it, because I was reading the same thing, and that's the question I have. Now, if it's a manual transmission, you have what they call a clutch master cylinder, and you have a master cylinder as well as what they call a slave cylinder. The slave cylinder mounts down on the transmission itself, so you've got a couple of mechanisms working to make that happen, whereas my guess is that the slave cylinder goes away, all that becomes electronic. You still have to have some sort of hydraulic going on, some sort of master cylinder, I guess. Unless it's master cylinder, they call it, and it's an electronic component, like a module or a sensor of some sort. I don't know. But this will be interesting.
Well, it's different enough from your traditional clutch manual transmission that the U.S. Patent Office granted Ford a patent for it. So the Patent Office felt like it was unique enough to receive its own patent.
Right.
And just everybody, no guarantee that because Ford or anybody else receives a patent that this is going into production. They may use this in a future generation, and they may have several revisions of this product before it ever sees the light of day. So
right, and a lot of the stuff that I had read, the commentary that I read, there's a lot of speculation that this could be the next generation Mustang. And as we all know, there has been talk of a hybrid version of that Mustang. And, it still remains to be seen whether or not it's going to have that start-stop feature on it as well.
I mean, think about it from this perspective. If you truly want to be competitive in a quarter mile, having the ability to control when the shift happens is a big thing, right? Like,
yeah.
As opposed to an automatic transmission that's always going to shift at a certain RPM. Well, if you're trying to hit that sweet spot and keep it there for a minute or a few seconds, that's maybe not ideal, right? To get the most power transfer.
Right. Yes.
So something like this is kind of that hybrid, right? You can control to some extent when the shift happens in terms of when in the RPM cycle, but also you're taking away that delay that you would have in the normal foot clutch transfer system.
Right. And, I don't know about you, man. Here's how I feel about it. And I know I'm going to have the backup of all of our fans out there. There is nothing better than rocking the straight up old shifting gears with a manual clutch type transmission, man. I'm telling you, there's nothing better than that.
I've got some friends that have kids that are near Side Shot's age. Have you heard this philosophy?
No.
A lot of parents are looking towards some sort of a manual transmission as a first vehicle for a lot of their kids, because the whole idea is to keep their hands away from their phone.
Now that is extremely intelligent. Hats off to mom and dad who are doing that, because it keeps them occupied. It makes them basically pay attention to what they're doing.
You probably did the same thing I did, though, but for us it was like a McDonald's drink cup, right? And you're like trying to shift, and I had no cup holder, and it would like end up between, holding it between my legs and trying to do the awkward shift with it,
Absolutely. Well, actually, my first manual transmission that I drove was a 1959 Ford pickup truck that my dad had.
Well, that was up here, right?
It was 3 on the tree, man. And he wanted me to learn that because he said that's a step. The first vehicle I ever owned was a manual transmission, and that was by design. Of course, I drove some tractors and stuff, which that's easy. That's just,
I learned on a tractor.
That's easy. But when you're driving a 3 on the tree, you got to understand how it works. Transmissions have changed so much over the years. I mean, think about the ones that were on the push button on the dash. That there were a lot of vacuum controls. You just hit the button on the dash, and people think that like that's something new that you're seeing in some of these modern day vehicles. That was very futuristic for back in those days, and now it's here we are in 2022, and we got vehicles with push button starts and. Getting rid of the key, period. You got these fobs, these smart fobs and stuff where you can start the vehicle, remote start and all that stuff. Technology is great. Embrace it, people. It's fun. Now, this is definitely a step in the right direction, I think, for automakers, specifically Ford here, to go, especially if you're a muscle car builder, a performance type vehicle builder, you got to have something to go to here, man. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. How long this will be before we see something like this in one of their vehicles, I have no idea. I just know that we are all dreading the day when the manual transmission completely goes away. And in fact, I will tell you right now, people, that one of the reasons why Keith would not go forward with his Ford Bronco reservation was because he could not get a V6 with that manual transmission. Is that right?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was the deal.
That 2.7 is automatic only. And there was some reference to Ford, the Bronco, maybe using this type of transmission in those scenarios. So we'll see.
And I would actually do that. That would be enough of a meeting me halfway on some sort of a hybrid transmission like this. I would go for it because it would accomplish what I was hoping, which is when you're truly off pavement, you have manual control over that transmission.
Right. Just as you have a manual control over it's electronic control to manually change the suspension. I get that. That's a lot easier. That's a different animal there. Disengage and re-engage to get that flexibility when you're crawling rock. But this, yes, absolutely. To have that control over that transmission when you're off-roading like that is so important, man. You can control it's that feel. There is so much feel when it goes into this stuff, man. You got to have someone, spotting you, but you as a driver, you got to feel that, man.
Man, I remember the first time I let my wife drive my Z car. This was back when I had the black Z Roadster, and I'd just gotten it. Like, it was less than a year old. It was probably 6 months old, and I remember like hiding, like looking out the window. Like as she got far enough away that she couldn't see that I was watching her. Like I was clenched up a little bit, listening, just making sure just hoping she didn't grind it.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. But, I mean, this is, again, one of those things, if you're not subscribed, everybody, you need to be, because we're bringing this information to you way early. I guarantee you this is going to show up somewhere later, and so will Bert.
I hate to say I told you so.
Yeah, buddy.